Secretary, are you going to be using federal money for the stadium?
I think we're doing the interviews later on.
This has been great. And my Congresswoman, amazing. I see your great staffer back there.
Hey, Pete Buttigieg, we don't want the Howard Terminal project here. That Howard Terminal
Don't worry,
project
he's here to talk
is
about
more
other
gentrification, it's higher rents, it's bringing right-wingers into the city of Oakland. We don't want the Howard Terminal project. This man is trying to bully me and push me, but he's not going to succeed. We don't want the Howard Terminal project in Oakland. This is privatization of public land. It's more gentrification. Keep the Howard Terminal project out of Oakland. I don't know, who are you, sir? What's your name? What's your name? Who's trying to push me? We don't want the Howard Terminal project in Oakland. Keep it out. If we're going to get federal money in Oakland, we need it for rapid transit. We need it for housing for the homeless. We need it for green energy. We don't need it for more gentrification.
My name is Michael Shea, and I'm an Oakland teacher. I teach at a school called Sojourner Truth, and I'm down here today because there was a call last night at a SLAP meeting. SLAP stands for Schools and Labor Against Privatization, and they called for people to come down here and let Libby Schaff and Pete Buttigieg and Barbara Lee know that we are not interested as Oakland citizens for paying for a billionaire and millionaire fun park down at the Port of Oakland. The Port of Oakland should be preserved for working class jobs for black people, brown people, indigenous people.
So why do you think the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, is here, and Barbara Lee? You think she's supporting federal money to the stadium, to a stadium?
I have no idea what Barbara Lee supports.
I can say something about that. You know, the entire Democratic Party is basically, here in Oakland, is run by the real estate developers. And that's why the entire Democratic Party is supporting this project from top to bottom. And some of them hide behind this fraud of what they call community benefits. All that is, that's just perfuming a turd. It's a way of making something seem beneficial that can never be beneficial for the community.
Well, thanks, Pete, for investing.
Yes, we're going to.
What's your name?
I'm Cheryl Walton with SLAP, and also with the East Oakland Stadium Alliance, and I'm an Oakland resident, and I'm saying no to the $14.1 million of infrastructure money that Buttigieg could provide for us, to not go to the Howard Terminal, but to go for infrastructure for our port and for our maritime usage.
It seems that has a low priority for Pete. You think it has a low priority for Pete?
Well, I don't know. I'm not saying it's a low priority, because if it was, he wouldn't be here. So he's here today taking a tour right here on First and Broadway in Oakland, and we're here too saying, yes, thank you for the money, thank you for the opportunity, but let's place the money in the right place.
And where does Barbara Lee stand, Congresswoman?
I'm not sure where Barbara Lee stands. I would love to be able to, but I know one thing: everybody should write her and call her and say no to this money going to Howard Terminal to a billionaire, John Fisher.
One is opposed to the project, OEA, ILWU, but there are unions that are in favor of the project. The construction.
No question. The building trades have been stridently in favor of this project, because they are, under the false illusions that this will be, like permanent jobs. But to me, this represents temporary jobs, and then the permanent jobs will be low pay, low income, typical jobs that, exist at a ballpark.
The building trades.
Privatization. I mean, you think this is part of the privatization drive in Oakland and around the country?
Well, 100%. They all around the country. You see, like, taxpayers having to, foot the bill for these billionaires' stadiums.
It basically represents the real estate interest, or the leadership does. And I'll give you an example. The city council member in my district, Nikki Fortunato Boss, when she voted in favor of the Howard Terminal project, the environmental impact report, within a month of that, she was getting thousands of dollars in donations from the building trades. They were representing the real estate interests. So that's how Oakland politics works. And
there's schools that are closing. I mean, 10 schools, 11 schools are closing schools at the same time they're talking about federal money for...
Don't forget, John Fisher is a major privatizer of the school system. And he's going to be brought in right into the heart of Oakland politics. What role is he going to play? Fisher, as we know, is the owner of the A's. What role is he going to play? He's going to be pushing further privatization of public land and privatization of the school system.
It seems like they don't have any money for the schools. Why are they closing the schools at the same time they've got a budget surplus in California?
So the big, the big thing with Oakland is that Oakland Unified School District remains the #1 landowner in Oakland. So just similar to what John Fisher's trying to do with the port is a land grab, like take public space away from the Port of Oakland to build a privatized ballpark for the Oakland A's. But the main issue for Fisher is that he wants to build all this luxury housing down there, similar to what the real estate developers in Oakland want, which is more space to build market rate housing. So that's literally, like the district has claimed in the past, that they are doing this to build revenue for the district.
Wouldn't that destroy the working Port of Oakland? I mean, if you have a stadium right next to the port at the Howard Terminal?
Yes. San Francisco has no more cargo terminals left. They have one passenger terminal for the ILWU to work. Thus, it's likely that once that ballpark goes down there and all those condos, that will trigger the Port of Oakland, in the few years' time to probably be, all that work to be moved up the coast or down the coast.
My name is Melody Davis. I am from West Oakland, where this Howard Terminal is just a big sham here right now.
Where does Barbara Lee stand on this?
Oh man, it's a shame because she's from here and she knows how. She's been here since she came from Texas, so she should be really upset about it. But she has a job to do and she got to go along with the rest of the cronies. But I just drove by Howard Terminal and that place is packed with containers that came off the ships that those longshoremen have to take and put it on the trucks. Now how are they gonna do that? How are they gonna do that if there's a Coliseum down there, a stadium, and $1 million houses that a person cannot afford? You know what I'm saying? It's a big sham, and it's a shame that they were putting money there, that they were putting money on a Mr. Fisher's investment, his fantasy island. It's not for us. It's not for us, and I want people to understand that it's not for us. It's a crime and a shame. It should be ridiculous.
Right this way, Congresswoman. We'll go this way.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
All right, we're supposed to come this way.
We're going to come around this way.
Being here, and I am delighted and honored to be home, first of all, with our great mayor, Mayor Libby Schaff, and also with our Secretary of Transportation, who, just a quick story, when he was first appointed as Secretary of Transportation, I called him and I said, Mr. Secretary, the agenda which you have laid out and the Biden administration has laid out is so critical for my city, for my district. And so many of the issues related to livable communities, access to transportation, access to affordable housing, climate issues, all of the issues that the Secretary laid out were so important here for my district. So I said, you have got to come to Oakland, California. And so we talked about reconnecting communities, which is a top priority of the Biden administration and the Secretary. And so today he had a chance to witness and to look at, first of all, what our federal investments have brought to our great city. Of course, we passed the American Recovery Act, we passed the infrastructure bill, we passed the CHIPS and Science Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, and these investments through this legislation and more are really bringing home to my community jobs, the creation of affordable mass transit, spaces, green spaces, really making Oakland the livable community that everyone here deserves. And I just want to thank AC Transit
for taking us on this quick tour of our city. Zero emission bus. I remember AC Transit was the first transit system which began the development of fuel cell technology for buses. Now it's being used all over the country, but AC Transit led the way. And so I want to thank AC Transit for their hospitality and for once again leading the way. So to our Secretary of Transportation, I think he got a glimpse of the vision of our city, but also had a chance to see how our mayor and our city are putting the current investments to work. And we're doing exactly what needs to be done here in Oakland. And I'm excited about the whole effort to begin to reconnect West Oakland with the rest of the city through the reconnecting of communities and strategies, which of course our city has, but also the Biden administration and our Secretary of Transportation. So thank you very much, Mr. Secretary, for being here. Equity is a big issue in my city. You know, we've been trying for years and years and years to make sure that equity is infused in all of our policies, and the Biden administration and Mr. Secretary have also made equity a key element of everything and each federal investment that they bring forward as a result of what we appropriate in Congress. So thank you again. I'll turn it over to our mayor, who really has done a great job with our federal money and really made sure that our secretary knows that what we said we were going to do with his money, with our federal resources, is being done here now.
We want to hear about the Howard Terminal project. There's going to be more gentrification. It's going to be against everything that you just spoke about, Barbara Lee. So we want to know about that. It's just a real estate boondoggle. It's going to be a financial millstone around the neck of the city of Oakland. Well, we know what you stand for. That's who your financiers are, the real estate developers, Yuppie Schaff. We know that.
Listen, our purpose today is to welcome the Secretary of Transportation for the United States of America. And back when he was the mayor of South Bend, we served together as mayors. And we were both reminiscing about how this type of investment, right in the heart of communities, with infrastructure, is something that is so overdue. And the Biden-Harris administration has been delivering on that. It is such a pleasure to host you. I've always been a huge fan. In fact, I first remember you provided, and when I went to new mayor orientation at Harvard, Pete Buttigieg was our trainer on how to make your city millennial friendly. I'll never forget that. It was the first time we met. But that's why I know the heart of this secretary is for the people. The heart of this secretary is about healing racial wrongs, reconnecting communities, and advancing good jobs, less pollution, and more safety. Now, you saw what we're planning to do with the RAISE grant that you already awarded us, making Broadway safer, making it easier and faster to take transit to get where you're going. And that is the work that we intend to continue to do. I want to thank AC Transit with our zero emission bus. It's a great example of our city's commitment and our deep partnership with you, Secretary Buttigieg, to advance your incredible agenda. So what an honor to introduce you here today in Oakland, California. Secretary Buttigieg.
Thanks so much, Mayor.
I'm the only candidate for mayor.
Thanks so much. It's a real pleasure to be here, and I want to thank, first of all, our hosts. I want to thank the mayor, who I did get to know back when we were both members of the community of U.S. mayors. I think the job has only become more demanding and difficult since I wore that title. But also, I hope that you feel a wind at your back in trying to guide the city forward from a federal administration that really wants American cities to succeed, and we're able to bring resources to that, not just encouragement, on all of the different projects and visions that the mayor and mayors across America are trying to achieve, thanks to the legislation that was passed, the bipartisan infrastructure law that Congresswoman Barbara Lee and so many others supported, that has led to, among other things, the most significant investment in public transit in the history of the United States of America. It is a major achievement, and I know the folks here are hard at work making good on that and putting those dollars to work. Investing in transit is an investment in our climate, It is an investment in safety. It is an investment in access to jobs. It even benefits the people who don't use it because there's less congestion on the roads for the people who are driving when more people do use excellent public transit. And so we're thrilled to be able to recognize that. And so glad to see for myself how the $14.5 million raise grant is being put to work in order to create greater safety, a more dignified experience for people, whether they are commuting on foot or by bike or by public transit around these neighborhoods, and with a vision for equity as well. I also want to mention we've got a tremendous amount of momentum, not just in this bipartisan infrastructure law that we're now working across the country implementing, but with the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act, something else that the Congresswoman supported that represents the most significant climate legislation passed by not just the United States, but any country ever, but also means a lot for transportation on everything from making electric vehicles more affordable to helping reconnect neighborhoods. And when it comes to reconnecting neighborhoods, just saw a dramatic example of the consequences of highway construction from previous generations as we saw a literal gash in a neighborhood that the Congresswoman Lee gave me a vivid description of in its most vibrant days, knowing that those who were displaced were never fully made whole, but that there are opportunities now to make right what was wrong in a previous generation. Again, based on that principle that the fundamental function of any transportation asset is not to divide but to connect. So we're going to be closely watching the progress here in Oakland, the use of that raise grant that we were so proud to be able to offer. And by the way, I want to emphasize that is an extremely competitive program. Many applications that we have to say no to for every one that we get to say yes to, just because of the limits on the funding. But thanks to the President's vision, thanks to the Congresswoman and her colleagues, we are going to be able to say yes to more transit agencies and more mayors than ever before. So thanks again for the opportunity to be here, and I think we have a little bit of time for media questions that will be quarterbacked by my colleague
Are you
Carrie
concerned
here.
about the stadium affecting the transportation in the Port of Oakland, affecting the viability of the Port of Oakland if there's a stadium built right in the port?
So I can't speak directly to something that's being currently reviewed by civil servants in the department as part of the mega application process, but I will say three things. First of all, in that process, every application will receive full and fair consideration. Secondly, it is a very competitive process. And third, every application will be weighed on the merits.
Questions to go to press. Sorry, sir. You've already had
other reporters?
Reporters. We want reporters to have a chance to ask questions.
Transit ridership has been decimated here in the Bay Area. It's often cut in half. I mean, how are you shifting the way federal money is allocated to account for commuters not going to work anymore?
So there's no question the commuting patterns have shifted. Typically we've seen the recovery come more quickly on buses than on subways, although there has been increase from the lowest levels of ridership on both modes. I'd be lying if I said we know exactly what commuting will look like by the middle or by the end of this decade. But what we do know is people are going to continue to need ways to get to where they have to be, to jobs, to school, to loved ones. And we can't continue expecting or demanding that everybody have the means or the inclination to take 2 tons of metal along with them everywhere they go by having a car be the only good option to do it. So we know that transit is a good investment. We also know the shape of transit is going to continue to evolve, and we're working with the local agencies as they pursue their visions on how to make it more flexible, and as this zero emissions bus shows us, make it cleaner as well.
I live in Oakland. Why can't I ask a question?
If I can
I've lived in Oakland for 55 years. Why can't I ask a question?
The Metropolitan Transportation Commission that's over the 9 counties of the Bay Area. We also are working to create a more seamless integration of multiple transit districts that serve one Bay Area. So to create that seamless connection between different systems is one of the things that we believe will also encourage more ridership of our buses.
We're going over here to Jose. Question?
How are you? So, lack of infrastructure over the last several decades has led in Oakland to a lot of collision deaths, particularly in black and brown communities. What's some of the work that's happening federally to avoid that, to help those long underserved communities through infrastructure?
Well, look, safety is an example of the racial and economic injustice that has been part of transportation. It's been part of every aspect of society, policy, life, and the economy in the United States. And so when we're making an investment in equitable improvements to transportation, that includes a recognition of the inequity in safety outcomes. The truth is that black and brown pedestrians are more likely to lose their lives in collisions and more likely to be in situations because of the condition of neighborhoods that are overburdened and underserved where they were exposed to more danger in the first place. It does not have to remain so. And part of what I've seen just today in the vision for the improvements that federal dollars will go to is a way to enhance that kind of equity and deliver safety where it has not been equitable in the past.
Aren't the closure of schools going to lead
Sorry,
to
we have one more
deaths
question. We have time for one more question from the press. Is there a member of the media who would like to ask a question?
I would like to know Barbara Lee's position.
To the left here? To the
Barbara
left.
Lee.
You can come up.
What's Barbara Lee's position on the stadium and
Sir,
money
please.
for federal
We
money?
can't hear the question.
Range grant is a competitive grant.
Yes.
This is a very competitive grant. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, just
The
to
one
give
that
you
we got already?
Yes.
Yeah, and just to give you a flavor, that this was the one we saw was from fiscal year 21. In the fiscal year 22 round that we just made awards, there were $13 billion of applications for $2 billion of funding, so about a 6-to-1 ratio. I think it was actually closer to 10-to-1. We'll get you the numbers in this particular round that the Oakland community successfully won, that they're now working toward actually deploying. So we've got more resources than ever, but there's a lot of need out there, and any community that wins one of these competitive grants has a lot to be proud of.
Thank you very
All
much.
right, and that's it. Sorry,
Thanks,
thanks everybody. Can we have the three of you together?
Barbara Lee. Barbara Lee, what's your position on the Howard Terminal project?
So we're going to actually just keep it.
Yeah, that's what. All right.
Take a deep breath.
It's part of the democratic process, right?
Thank you very much.
Barbara Lee, what's your position on the stadium?
So we'll go, we can go this way.
If you don't mind stepping outside the Congresswoman.
My name is William Dow. I'm here, Bill Dow, because I'm here because I don't want to see the piers disrupted by that Fisher project that they're going. It's not the ballpark. It's that whole project that is there. It's going to affect the piers, in my opinion. It's going to go right on down the line and affect the waterfront. I see it as a danger to the maritime industry in this area.
And apparently there's going to be about $800 million of tax money going to John Fisher. When he originally proposed this project, he said he would finance it completely. I mean, what's changed?
Well, what's changed is they're saying the ballpark. Now, but in order to get that ballpark in there, they're going to have to restructure everything down there, and that's where the money's going. And so Fisher, the city of Oakland, and the state and the county and everything else is putting money into that ballpark. So if they say it's not publicly financed, they're lying.
Well, Barbara Lee, I mean, why would she allow a stadium that might ruin the port as a working port for the people of Oakland?
Well, I don't know what Barbara Lee's stand is on it right now.
Has the ILWU asked her?
I think she'd probably be in favor for us, but I don't know.
She's here today with Pete, the Secretary of Transportation. You think she's supporting this project?
I have no idea if she's supporting it or not, really. I haven't heard.
Has anyone asked her what her position is?
Well, I haven't. I can only speak for myself.
But the ILWU is against the project.
Well, we're against that project being constructed down there, of course. We don't want anything interfering with the maritime industry, and we think it's going to be a danger to the maritime industry. It's plain and simple. When they put all that traffic and everything down there, the shippers are going to start looking for other problems.
We'll go to LA or Seattle?
Yeah, they'll probably go to LA. You see now, because I just seen last week or whatever it is, some of the growers down there are already starting to think of ways to get their product down south rather than to come to Oakland. So, I know that that's part of what is going on. They say because they have trouble shipping into Oakland because of all the disruptions. Well, what's the ballpark going to do?
And even the construction of the ballpark, that's going to be a real mess with the rail lines and everything else.
Of course.
And there's gridlock already in 880.
Yeah. What can they, I can't say any more than that. If people have just turned a blind eye to it, they just, they're believing whatever these are trying to do, this ballpark stuff.